What's it like to live in New York City? I'm Chris. This is Yellow Productions. I do travel guides that are fun, informative, and entertaining. This video, it's a live stream, and in this live stream, I'm joined by a very special guest, John Barr from the channel Here Be Barr. He is a ex-sportscaster turned vlogger, an overall really cool guy who does lots of videos about New York City, so I figured who better to join us today for the live stream, and by the magic of the internet, here we go. John, welcome.
Chris, thank you so much for having me on your show. I have to say that your Vegas videos are probably my favorite of any travel vlogger. You were a big inspiration for me when I made my Vegas video a year ago, so just wanted to say thanks for that.
Right on. That's cool, John. Thank you very much. And it's great to have you here. When I did my 11 best travel channels video last week, there were lots of people on that live stream that said their favorite channel, or one of their favorites, certainly was your channel, Here Be Bar, with all the great
Wow.
New York City videos. So starting about New York City, how long have you lived in New York City, and what brought you there?
All right, well, I actually was born and raised in northern New Jersey, so I guess we could say that I started my New York City experience right after I was born. I mean, I was born in Ridgewood, New Jersey, not Ridgewood, Queens, which is about 20 minutes from the George Washington Bridge. And I formally moved to New York City, like I actually lived there, starting in October of 2011, so almost 9 years ago. And what brought me here was my twin brother was attempting to start an acting career, and he figured if he lived in the city, it would be easier to go to auditions. So he kind of wrote me along with him and said, "Hey, let's get an apartment. It's time to move out." And I said, "Fine. I love New York. Let's try it."
Right on. Very cool. Adriana's on the live stream. She's definitely one of your fans. She says, "Yay, Here Be Bar."
She better be my fan. She's married to me.
Right on. And Reverend Johnny says, "Hello, John." And Scottman895 Travel says, "I still have yet to visit New York City, but I would love to go there someday, hopefully in 2021. Okay, so you've been in New York City for 9 years. Is there anything that you didn't expect in New York City, like that you found out when you moved there?
That's an interesting question. I would like to tell you that there was something that was unexpected for me, but the truth is, growing up on the other side of the Hudson River, New York City never felt like this far away, exotic land that you see in movies. It was always there. I was always going. So I honestly don't think there was a single thing that I wasn't really that surprised me moving to New York. I guess the biggest surprise, if I had to say one thing, was looking for apartments and seeing how small they were. That wasn't something I
Mm,
really ever knew about. So that just came to me now. Maybe one thing was just how tiny the lower Manhattan apartments were. That's
yeah.
probably it.
How tiny is a Lower Manhattan apartment? Like, what does tiny mean in Lower Manhattan?
We're looking at one now. My apartment's about 350 square feet. I've made
Wow.
not one, not two, but like four videos about my tiny apartment. They've all done really well on YouTube.
Yeah.
So whenever I travel with my wife and we rent an Airbnb, I'll give you an example. We rented an Airbnb in Merida, Mexico. It was a two-floor house. It was probably 7 times the size of my current apartment. And yet I still found myself spending most of my day in like a 50 square foot radius anyway. Maybe it's a New York thing. I don't know.
Right on, right on. That is tiny for sure. I think New York City and Tokyo definitely have that land
Hmm.
premium in common. JJ says, "I follow Here Be Bar." He knows a lot about New York City. Um, and Milwaukee County Elevator says, "Hey, John, I want to travel to New York City someday if it's safe." And certainly I'm sure we'll talk about COVID-19 as we get through this related to that safe thing. But I think New York City's actually gone through a kind of big safety resurgence, right? How would you describe the safety in New York City, John?
Well, I think that the media has been, how do I put this? They've been pushing a lot of the bad stories about New York City with crime, how shootings have gone up, which is true. But I think a lot of that also has to do with COVID-19, and there's a lot more people who have like extra time on their hands to cause trouble. But the truth is, walking around as a resident, I don't feel particularly less safe. I wouldn't tell people not to come to New York for safety right now. But what I would say is that with less people around, especially at night, I maybe feel slightly more vulnerable, just a little bit, because especially living in Manhattan, you're always used to people 24/7 walking around, and then you walk around at 11 o'clock and there's barely anybody out now. It's a little strange.
Yeah, I think a lot of big cities feel that way right now. OC Girl and I, we were in downtown San Diego this past weekend, and it has that same vibe to it. Like downtown San Diego is usually like a really vibrant place, and when all the tourists and business people are gone, then all you notice left are the unsavory people. And it's not that there's more of them, right? But to your point, it's just like,
Just notice them more. Yes, that's a good
yeah,
way of putting it. I like that.
for sure. Um, so, now, I think when a lot of people think of New York City, they think of it as a very glamorous place to live. That's what they see on TV, that's what they see in the movies. Is it as glamorous as Hollywood makes it out to be?
The thing with New York is it's very glamorous for TV shows and movies because it's very majestic. You have the big buildings, you have these beautiful parks, you have two very famous rivers on either side. Uh, is it glamorous? Yeah, there are moments where I'm filming a video and I'll just like step back from the lens and look out and think, wow, I live here. The sun is setting and there's the Manhattan skyline. There's those small moments where I'll just catch a beautiful sunset or something incredible will happen and I'll think only in New York. But more times than not, it's not really glamorous. It's, I'm stuck in this tiny apartment. I'm riding on this subway, usually not now, that's super crowded. There's smelly garbage on the sidewalk. Was that a rat right there? So most of the times it's more like that.
Yeah, good deal. There are a lot of rats in New York City. I found in this, like in the subway too. Wu
Hmm.
Taiwan says he's 100% right. I used to be up at 4 a.m. in New York City, and there's always something to do. For sure, the city that never sleeps. You want to get that 24-hour Korean tofu in Koreatown, no problem. Um, and Lucy, there was some conversation about are the streets clean, Lucy, and earlier she said she lives in New York. She says New York has clean streets. Usually around 7 a.m. it gets a good cleaning. So I think if you want the clean streets, that's when to find it. And Lucy, by the way, I love that your icon is the apple for the Big Apple. Perfect.
Yeah.
Um, so, John, there's been a lot of conversation about people leaving New York City, but you're still in New York City. What keeps you in New York City?
Oh, I'd say for me, it's a lot of things. It's obviously regional ties. The fact that I grew up in this area and that I know it very well. My parents retired not far from you in Oceanside, California. Obviously, I have a lot of friends growing up here. I have a lot of friends in New York. My YouTube channel, let's be honest, 90% of it is New York City. So just being able to live here and make content very easily, that's a big part of my income right now is YouTube. So, and I love New York as well. Even as someone that travels, the airports here, like living here, we are close to three airports that can take you just about anywhere in the world. So it's a good base in the United States. I always say to my wife, if if it wasn't for New York, I don't know if there's another city in the U.S. that I would really want to move to badly. It's just the one place here that really just it keeps me.
Yeah, you mentioned airports. There's three: JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark. Favorite to least favorite.
Okay, let's. I'll say that's tough. I'm probably going to say JFK is my favorite, only because I have the priority pass with my Chase Sapphire Reserve credit card. You actually did a good video about travel credit
For
cards. Shout
sure.
out to you for that.
Yes.
So they have the most lounge access. So I can go to JFK and like hit up the Air France lounge or I think Aer Lingus, and there's a couple of other ones.
Yeah.
So that's probably number one. Number two would likely be maybe LaGuardia because I have access to the Centurion Lounge. As you can see, I'm going somewhere with this. Wherever I have the most free food and drink, I tend to like best.
I don't blame you.
And I don't mind Newark, but we'll put Newark as last because I don't have any lounge access there. So
Yeah.
there's my reasons.
I'm with you, and I'll say I'm a big United flyer, and I get lounge access in Newark, but it's like it's a really
Oh,
mediocre United lounge.
that
So
is
you're
an
not.
awful lounge.
Yeah, it is. Every time I go through Newark, I'm just like ah. Um, but speaking of things that make you go what are some of your least favorite things in New York City?
I think I touched on it on the unglamorous part, but I would just say congestion of people, which now isn't a problem. I mean, I wish the circumstances were for a better reason, but I would say the amount of people, particularly in Midtown Manhattan or downtown Manhattan during rush hour, that's something I really don't like a lot. I don't like the smells of the city. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes you're walking by many restaurants, you smell amazing foods. But other times, even just by me, people, the trash piling up in the summer, it's gross. And the subways, like I love the New York City subway system for the fact that you can go just about anywhere for 275. Unlike Tokyo, for example, you don't pay to transfer
Right.
regularly.
Right.
But the trains are so inconsistent. There's always construction. They're always late. They're crowded. You could have a jerk on the train, like my wife and I had the other day. He's blasting his boombox, and nobody says anything because everyone's afraid of being confrontational with a stranger. You figure
For
if
sure.
he's blasting music loudly on a subway, if you tell him to stop, what else is he going to do? So it's like little
Right.
things like that.
Yeah. Speaking of smells, Traveling the World says New York has a smell that has a combo of garbage, gas, and other weird stuff. Yeah, and I think the other weird stuff, I mean, there are the tasty things, though, as John says. And certainly one of the things I like about New York City is the smell of some of the foods that you have, right? You walk by a pizza joint, and you're like, it's good pizza when you can smell the pizza wafting out from it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Um, so, speaking of another glamorous thing, I think another perspective that many people have of New York City is that of Sex in the City, the TV show that was on HBO. There's actually a question from OC Girl, my wife. She wanted to know, do all the girls in New York City wear high heels everywhere they go?
I wish my wife can answer that question. I'm sure she's laughing right now listening to my
I'm sure-
response. We've discussed this. I would say you very rarely see women wearing high heels in New York unless we're going to a very fashionable area, let's say Soho, like they're dressing up to take pictures for Instagram. That
Yeah,
would be one reason I would see it. Another would be if you're going to, I don't know, meatpacking district and there's nightclubs and they're lining up for nightclubs to get in. There you would see it. Otherwise, New York has got to be one of those places like in the United States the most where you just walk all the time. So I can't imagine how many blisters you would have if you wore high heels every single day. Usually when I see women walking around, I normally see them more in like casual, like yoga pants or dressed up to work out, something more chill than wearing high heels. I would say that's actually far more common. I'm not talking about tourists. I'm just talking about people that actually live here. I usually see people more casual. They're just going about their day-to-day lives.
for sure. I think that casual attire, that's the same thing here in like Southern California too, right? Is it the casual attire or the regular daily attire does seem to be like fitness attire at this point.
Definitely.
Yeah. Trip Hacks DC talking about the smell says he got comments by unhappy New Yorkers when he said in a video that New York City has a distinct smell. Well, that sounds like a nice way of putting it, Rob. So, Triangle
That's
C.
good.
Triangle C takes a take on it. Says I heard New York City smells like spoiled milk. Hmm.
I've never quite noticed that before, but hey, everyone's got an opinion.
Yeah. Grovel says usually New York City women wear walking shoes, then switch to high heels when they get to their destination. I can
That's
see
about
that.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I lived in Washington, D.C. for a while, and I definitely noticed that there too, right? You'd see the women on the subway, and they're all dressed up in the, pencil skirt and all those things with, right, regular tennis shoes, but you can see in the backpack they've got like a pair of high heels. But Adriana says, well, it might actually be like Sex in the City on Sundays, yes, with girls going to brunch. Probably, I assume, when you don't have to walk too much and you can take a taxi to your destination. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and Lucy says, I don't see women with heels in New York. Speaking of heels, one of the things I always find interesting about like Las Vegas, and John, I know you did a video on Las Vegas, but I don't know if you noticed this. There's a certain time in the evening where you'll see the girls no longer wearing their high heels, instead they're carrying them because they didn't really appreciate how much walking there was in Las Vegas. It's,
Oh, they're walking barefoot on the strip. I've seen that.
yeah, that's right.
You
That's
see
right.
that in New York too sometimes. I've seen that here.
Yeah.
Probably a little grosser in New York, but I've seen it.
Yeah, I think it would be a little bit grosser in New York. So another thing that a lot of people think of when they think of New York is Wall Street, finance, all those sorts of things. Is it weird to live in a place that has all the Wall Street finance stuff going on?
I wouldn't say so unless you either commuted to Wall Street all the time, which I don't, or you lived in the financial district. So I don't think you're really surrounded by that like hustle bustle, big skyscraper experience unless you live in very specific neighborhoods, which would be I don't know, Wall Street area or maybe Midtown East, that kind of area. Otherwise, most New Yorkers only stare at skyscrapers when they're going to work or they're just coming into the city to do something else. I will say that I went to the financial district maybe 2 weeks ago, and it
Hmm.
was pretty quiet. A lot of the
Hmm.
big Wall Street firms have let their employees telecommute, so it's much, much deader than a lot of other areas of the city compared to what it's normally like. It was so quiet when I went; it was actually kind of insane.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting on that note of telecommuting though, and I was just reading an article that J.P. Morgan Chase is like recalling
Mhm.
their employees because they've said that teleworking has led to lower productivity on Mondays and Fridays. And I
I
guess this,
completely believe that.
yeah, that's right. I got a case of the Mondays. Lucy comments about the heels. She says she keeps her heels in the office. All right, that's a perfect way to do it. Um, Steven wants to know, John, what's your favorite place to go in Times Square?
That's such an easy answer for me. And for Adriana listening, she'll laugh. It's called Los Tacos Number One. So it's a famous taco spot, and in Manhattan especially, it's very difficult to find good Mexican food.
I can
You
believe
normally
that.
have to go to you normally have to go to Queens or Brooklyn to find higher quality and cheaper Mexican food. But
Yeah.
Los Tacos Number One, they have one in Chelsea Market as well. That's the more famous one, but there's
Mm.
a couple of different outposts around the city. They just opened one, I believe, downtown as well. But the one in Times Square, so it's like one block off Times Square, usually not super busy. And I have yet to find a better taco in Manhattan. Like their quality is really good. So that was an easy answer for me.
Speaking of the one in Chelsea Market, I've seen that one when I did like the High Line walk and visit Chelsea Market, and I did not eat there, but I looked at it and I was like, oh, this place looks pretty decent. As someone from Southern California, though, I can't do Mexican food and generally on the East Coast, you know. Yeah.
I don't blame you. Honestly, it's like me if I'm going to Southern California, I'm eating a lot of Mexican food. I'm going to Koreatown in LA, but I'm not getting pizza. No
Yeah,
way. I
for
mean, no
sure.
offense. I'm sure there's decent pizza out there, but we have great pizza in New York, so I'm not looking for it in California.
Yeah. I have one pizza story for you, John, and it's from San Diego, and
Oh yeah.
it's so I'm from San Diego, and there's this place in San Diego called Bronx Pizza, and what's famous about this, it's like if you go on Yelp in San Diego and search for pizza, this is the highest rated pizza place in San Diego, and it's a bunch of guys that came out from New York. They opened this place in San Diego, and they placed wanted ads in New York City and said, "We're hiring in San Diego. If you make pizza, come to San Diego and make pizza at our place." And all the guys who worked there were like from New York. And so it like started a whole pizza revolution in San Diego, but it was with like the New York City service too. And I'll say, you know what I mean by that. Like the somebody who comes up to the front counter of the pizza place and they go like, you know, okay, what can I get for you? And if they're like, well, okay, next, right, step aside, right? It's like totally a soup Nazi sort of thing. Um,
I see.
yeah, but I thought it was interesting that they actually hired people out of New York City to come to San Diego, and I think there is something about that New York City pizza training. Um,
Well, I think the issue with even having an experienced New York pizza chef in California is the air is different, the water's different. So it's the same thing with bagels in
yeah.
California.
Mm.
Something about the water.
Hmm. So speaking of pizza, what's your favorite pizza place in New York City?
Well, anybody that watches my channel probably know my answer to this question easily. It's Bleecker Street Pizza. It's actually pretty close to my apartment, and I imagine a lot of people choose some of their New York City favorites just based on proximity. And I discovered this place pretty quickly after moving to New York, and they have this one slice that I really love called the Nonna Maria, and it's like a hybrid of Neapolitan and a traditional New York City pizza. And the taste of it is just so unique that I don't know. Every time I go back there and I have one, I'm just in heaven. It's like the first place I go to if I left New York, let's say for a month. I probably want to go to Bleecker Street Pizza. Like I love that place, and I filmed in there a few times. And then one time I went, they recognized me and the owner took my picture, and now my picture is on the wall, which I
Right
think is
on.
amazing.
Right on. That's super cool. That's when you know like you've kind of made it as a YouTuber, right?
It's when you know you've made it as a YouTuber. Your picture is on the wall of your favorite pizza place. That's it. Like, I'm done. I'm
Yeah,
good.
that's cool. Ken Kramer also likes Bleecker Street pizza, and he says the Nona Maria, I think, is what he likes as well. I also like Bleecker Street pizza is pretty good. When I go to New York City, because I'm a walker, one of the things I like to do is just as I walk around, like eat one slice of pizza at different pizza places. Like I'll just kind of walk around Manhattan, and as I smell something, I'm like, that smells good. Let me get a slice from there. You know, keeps me going.
Fantastic idea.
Yeah. Triangle C says, "What's the most weird and exotic restaurant in New York City?"
I don't know what the weirdest restaurant is. I remember there was one. It was somewhere in Manhattan that they served like interesting parts of animals to kind of be polite about it, like really weird parts of the body. If you can use your imagination. But the weirdest thing I ever ate was, do you know what balut is, or balut?
Balut,
It's a
yeah, for
Filipino
sure,
food.
for sure.
Balut.
Yeah, yeah.
Duck embryo.
Yeah.
So I filmed this video in Little Manila, Queens, and just as a joke, I was filming at a Filipino supermarket, and I held up a balut egg, and I said, "Guys, if this video gets 1,000 likes, I will eat this on camera on a video." And I totally didn't expect this to happen, and the video got 10,000 likes. And I'm like, oh.
10,000. So did you eat 10 then? Yeah.
I did. Everyone said I needed to eat 10, but I never.
Yeah.
No, they were inventing the rules. I ate one. It was, to this day, the most disgusting thing I've ever eaten in my life. And nothing has come close than that. Yeah.
In that case, you're braver than I am. I have not had balut. An interesting thing I did have, speaking of Mexican food, this past weekend was I had crickets. Apparently, crickets, deep fried crickets, apparently in Mexico, are a really popular thing to eat as bar snacks when you drink tequila. And if anybody,
Chapulines, right?
yeah, right. And if
I
anybody,
had them.
go ahead.
No, sorry to cut you off. I was saying I actually I had them in Puebla, Mexico, and I actually did a video in LA with someone who was from East LA, and he brought chapulines in a bag, and we put them in my taco, and of course I had to eat it for the video. So they're weird. I've had them.
Right on, right on. Yes, but I think they taste more like they taste like I would describe them as less fishy anchovies. Like if you close your eyes, you could almost think they have a little bit of a seafoody flavor to them.
Yeah.
Speaking of maybe less odd and bizarre foods, Laura wants to know what's the best date night restaurant and cinema in New York City?
Are we talking about like two different things, or the
That
best?
sounds like two different things. That sounds like where would you
Okay.
go for a best date night, and then where would you go for the best movie?
We'll start with movie. I really like the movie theater, the IFC on Avenue of the Americas in Greenwich Village, right across the street from the famous basketball courts at West Third. They show some really quirky stuff. I remember one night years ago, I saw some 80s movie with Roddy Piper playing at midnight. It's just my type of like quirky, random thing. As far as best date night, I mean, I know I'm married. We don't actually go out on a ton of like dates to fancy places. I'm actually trying to think of something good here, like a good date with my wife. Where would we go? You know where I really want to go again? I would go to a good rooftop bar, even if the food isn't quite up to snuff. I would say just for the cocktails and the view, and like whatever food they have is just a bonus. Because I can't think of a good restaurant with an amazing view in New York, but there's one spot that I want to go back to called Dear Irving on Hudson, and it was probably my favorite rooftop bar ever, because not only are the views really good, but they know how to make cocktails there. Like, they actually have like expert cocktail makers making those drinks. So I would say Dear Irving on Hudson for a date night. They serve food. I don't know how good the food is, but for the drinks, the ambiance, and like special night, I'd go there.
Yeah, the rooftop restaurants is a big trend in downtown Los Angeles too, and I think downtown LA shares some of the same issues of New York City. As if you're on street level, there's some of those people that you might not want to be around all the time, but like, oh, when you're up on the roof, like it can kind of have a neat way to see the city below. Speaking of pizza, there were a lot of comments, and I just picked one about this. People wanting to know what you think about Di Fara.
It's so interesting, telling me 1000 that you bring this up. So, I've never been to Defara. It's a very legendary place. Maybe it's the most famous pizza spot in New York. I was actually debating this to myself. So, I am set to film a video there in the next 10 days where we're actually going to go and we're going to interview the owner there and we're going to eat pizza. It's going to be me and an Italian YouTuber. And what's interesting about Defara is I believe only the owner makes the pizza, and he's older. He's in his 80s, so if he isn't feeling up to it, they just close. So
Nice,
you know that you're going to
nice.
get an amazing pie of pizza from this guy. He's an immigrant from Italy. I was literally just reading up on him today. I saw a video about him. So if you watch my channel within the next 2 weeks, there's going to be a video dedicated just to Defara, and I'll let you know what I think.
Cool. I'm looking forward to that video. Uh, Emilio says, "Hey, by the way, how are the jobs there right now? Any job?"
Oh, that's a tough question because for one, I'm self-employed, so I don't know what the job market looks like. But from what I've heard, it's not that great. I imagine a lot of companies right now aren't hiring. They're more trying to keep the staff that they have happy and telecommuting. And I don't think the job market's going to be, very good in New York until after there's a COVID vaccine and things pick back up again. But I'm really not super qualified to talk about the job market because it's not really something I look at.
Yeah, I think my general observation, just because my second channel, for most of you who watch it regularly probably know, but it's called the Office Survival Guide, because my full-time job, in addition to YouTube, is working an office job. So I do a lot of videos about how not just to survive the office life, but give you the skills you need to crush it in the office life. And New York City has a lot of office jobs, and I found
Oh,
most
yeah.
kind of like office companies. Don't really want to hire a lot of people right now because they like to do in-person interviews, and with COVID it makes that really hard. And so I think most companies have paused really a lot of their hiring until people actually like come back to work, as John said. um, Chris says the best cupcake he ever had was in a place in New York. I think it was called Magnolia's. Is it still there?
Magnolia's Bakery is still there. I think their cupcakes, just to be honest, are a little overrated. There's a place I like better called Molly's Cupcakes in Greenwich Village. I will stand by them being my favorite. I haven't done a deep dish video on like the best cupcakes in New York, but I always felt like Magnolia had this big reputation and that their customer service wasn't up to par compared to other places where they have this mindset of, okay, we're the best, we know it, and we don't have to be super nice to every customer. I just never felt that warmth in there that I felt in other neighborhood places.
Yeah. So I've eaten at Magnolia's and I thought it was good. They've also opened up a location in Los Angeles right next to the Beverly Center. But I
Mhm.
think my favorite cupcake, it's probably a plug for Trip Hacks DC with Rob there, is a place in DC called Baked and Wired. It's in Georgetown, and they make this like strawberry or raspberry cupcake that has like real strawberries and raspberries in it. Anyway, it's really delicious. But I
Sounds
also
amazing.
yeah, I also agree with you, John, that notion like DC has some like really popular cupcake places, and the ones that are like mega popular, to your point, just feel like super cold, you know. Um, and then I think the food gets cold too, because then they're just like churning it out, right? Uh,
Exactly.
okay, so New York City, it's a big touristy place, right? There's tons of tourists that come there. What do the locals think of all the tourists?
I think the locals, most of them, I mean, I see tourists as like potential friends or people to watch my videos, but I'm not your average person, just like you, I'm sure. But like on my day to day life, I think a lot of locals see tourists as sort of annoying obstacles in their way when they're trying to walk and crowding the sidewalk, maybe not following proper subway etiquette. This is very common where people will stop and look at a map or look at their phone right in front of the stairs where you need to walk up the stairs and you're creating traffic behind you or not being courteous enough to let people out of the subway before you board the subway first. So it's like these little courtesy things that maybe people who don't live in big cities wouldn't think about. But I'll be honest, I'm a little sympathetic. I'll tell you a story. For my bachelor party, we went to Montreal, and there was about nine of us walking one time. And I saw a couple of locals angrily passing us, and I realized, I'm like, so this is what it's like for tourists. You don't realize
Where
how
are those
slow
people
you're
now?
walking.
Yeah.
Now we're the people I hate because
Yeah,
8 9 people can't walk at the same time and there's conversations. So like I don't like it, but I sort of understand how it happens when you're not paying attention and you're just absorbed by your surroundings. You might not pay attention to other people who have to get somewhere.
for sure. One of the things that I find interesting in different parts of the world is that the notion of like walk on the right side of the sidewalk or something. Like if you go to a place where they drive on the wrong side of the road, then I feel like the sidewalks get all messed up. And I say that because there's usually so many visitors that are used to the I walk on the right because that's where we drive. But in a place where you drive on the left, and Australia is a great example. You go to Sydney and you go to Melbourne, and I feel it's that way. Like the sidewalks have no
Oh
harmony
yeah.
at all because all the visitors are like, "I'm supposed to be on this side," and all the locals are like, "What the heck are you doing over there?" You know. Wu Taiwan Nostalgia wants to know if the Royal Canadian Pancake House is still open.
I've actually never heard of it. That sounds amazing. I may look this up after. I don't know every single spot in New York, but I once went to an amazing pancake house in Hilo, Hawaii that I believe The Rock's dad used to work at
Oh,
or
right
did
on.
something at. But yeah, that's probably the best pancake I've ever had. But yeah, New York, I don't know where the best pancakes are, and I'm not sure about that. But that sounds good.
Cool. If any of you come out to Orange County, one of the best places, Orange County, California, to get pancakes is this place called Stacks, and it is a Hawaiian pancake house that they've opened like 3 locations here. They do like the macadamia nut pancakes and all those kinds of things. Sports on the side wants to know what's the most popular part of Central Park for New Yorkers?
I would easily have to say Sheep's Meadow, which was originally a sheep's meadow. It's not too far from 59th Street Columbus Circle. It is the largest, pretty much gathering spot in Central Park. You know, during normal times, you'll just see tons of locals sitting on blankets, throwing frisbees around, having some drinks, eating some food. By far the most crowded spot, I would say, in Central Park for locals. If we want to talk about the most touristy spots in Central Park, it would definitely be Strawberry Fields, where right across the street from Dakota, where John Lennon was murdered. That area gets a ton of tourists taking pictures.
Cool. And I'm not a local, but my favorite part of Central Park, and I don't know really what you'd call it, but like there's a lake, or maybe there's multiple lakes. There's kind of this hiking path around the lake that has some rocks that go around it, but it's one of those
I
things that's like,
think
oh,
it's
this is like
called
a really
I think it's called the Ravine. I think I did a whole video about Central Park, so I went top to bottom. We walked 10 miles that day. I'm pretty sure that's the name of it. Yes, that's a really cool spot.
yeah, that sounds about right. Grovel wants to know what's the biggest misconception people have about New York City.
Biggest misconception people have about New York City is that it's this big, scary metropolis with skyscrapers everywhere and muggers around every corner. I mean, I just shot a video a couple days ago in Forest Hills, Queens, which is 30 minutes from Manhattan. Like the majority of New Yorkers don't live next to the skyscrapers. The majority of New Yorkers, they live in the outer boroughs and they come to Manhattan when they have to. But New York is so much more than just big skyscrapers. New York has 8 million people. It has 5 boroughs. It has like so many different experiences you could have. As someone who's lived here 9 years, I still don't feel like I've even scratched the surface. I'd say the biggest misconception is just this big, scary city filled with crime when that couldn't be further from the truth.
Right on. That's a great perspective. We talked about Times Square earlier, and how often do locals go to Times Square?
Say as as little as possible. I mean, before I had a YouTube channel, I would make it a point to avoid Times Square unless I was showing somebody around. Now with my YouTube channel, I tend to find myself there at least twice a year, somehow filming a video where I'm walking through. Because as you know, as someone who films, it does have very interesting visuals. But most locals avoid it like the plague. Let's be honest.
Uh, I'm going to read Wu Tai's question in a second, but I just want to respond to the Times Square plague thing. So Anthony Bourdain famously said, like, when he goes to like New York City, he's often drawn to Times Square like a moth to like lights or something like that, right? And I feel
Hmm.
that way a little bit. Like I feel like when I go to Manhattan, I have to visit Times Square, but it's one of those like I get there and I'm like I'm here for 5 minutes and I'm like okay, I was here, I can go now. Um,
That's exactly how I feel. Like exactly how I feel.
yes. Wu Taiwan Nostalgia wants to know if you've ever eaten north of 125th in Amsterdam.
Yes, I have for sure. I mean, I've done a couple of videos. We did a video in Harlem. We did a video in Washington Heights. I mean, I did a video in the Bronx, Little Italy. Probably my favorite place to eat north of 125th would be in the Bronx, Arthur Ave. They have some absolutely incredible local restaurants there where it's been the same management and ownership for 50 plus years. If you're curious about it, I did a whole video. Just look up Bronx, Little Italy. Absolutely phenomenal, and the area does not get much attention at all from tourists.
Cool. Trisha wants to know, hey John, what is your true passion of New York?
Ooh, that sounds like a very
It's very
what's
deep.
the word? It's a
Yeah,
very deep question.
introspective. Yeah.
Introspective. I would say being the child of immigrants who actually immigrated to New York City in the 1970s and then eventually moved from Brooklyn to New Jersey. It's the immigrant experience here, and it's being able to find diversity and all of these people from different backgrounds living most of the time harmoniously. And as someone that lives here, having the opportunity to take advantage of all the cultures and explore and go to neighborhoods that may have a ton of Korean or Chinese restaurants or Uzbeki restaurants or anything. You can find just about any type of food from anywhere in the world in New York. So for me, it probably comes down to the diversity and the immigrant stories and how people have prospered here.
Yeah. Speaking of food from any place in the world, so I'm half Czech. My mom is from the Czech Republic or former Czechoslovakia. And New York City is like the only place I really know in the US that actually has a restaurant for Czech food. Um, and it's like it's not in Manhattan. It's out like, and I don't remember where it was. We visited it, but it's one of those things that's hard to find. And so I think Uzbeki food, this and that. If it's a unique food, I think you'll find it in New York City.
I
Um,
want to mention a
Go ahead.
place for you, a suggestion. So there is a Czech restaurant adjacent to the Czech consulate in the Upper East Side. It's called Bohemian Spirit. I had one of the best Czech beer experiences of my
Yeah.
life outside of the Czech Republic. Their beer is really good, and you can. I was in Prague a few years ago, I believe. I'm probably going to butcher it. It's called Svíčková. It's like
Yeah,
cutlet
for sure.
thing.
Yes, you did very well.
They make really good svíčková. Go there, thank me later. Bohemian Spirit, that's the name. Yep.
Okay, I'll do that. If you haven't done a video on that place, if I come to New York City, we should do a video together in that
I
place. I think that'd
did.
be
I
fun.
covered it, but I'll do it again with you.
Right on. Sounds good. And Svíčková, very good. It's one of my favorite Czech foods. Telemi 1000 says, if you had the option to live in any New York City neighborhood, where would it be and why?
Well, I'm living right now in one of my favorite neighborhoods, Greenwich Village. The only issue here is that rental prices are just too insane to get an apartment that most people would think is a normal size. I'd probably say if money was no object, I would go a little bit west of here. I'd go to the West Village, which, if people know, like the Sex of the City, like the Carrie apartment is in the West Village. That whole area with those beautiful brownstones, you're not too far from a lot of the subways, but it's a little bit more peaceful. And I think at this point in my life, I'm looking for a little bit more peace and quiet in New York. I live in like the heart of a lot of the nightlife and the action. It's a little quieter now, but I think I would be ready to go somewhere a little slower, and just going to the West Village would pretty much provide that.
Yeah. Speaking of places that are cheaper, John, have you seen the musical Avenue Q by chance?
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it. No.
Okay, so written by kind of the same people that did Book of Mormon, but Avenue Q is this story where these people they don't have enough money, and so they keep going, they keep going further and further away to Avenue Q, because there's no Avenue Q, right? Like the
I was gonna
avenues are like
say I've never heard of Avenue Q.
that's right. Like the higher the letters go, I guess the right cheaper it gets at some level. So yeah, they had to get all the way over to Avenue Q. It's a great musical, and maybe when musicals come back, I'd recommend it to you. I think it's one of my favorite musicals that I've seen. Sports on the side says, are there any unique laws in New York City?
There is one law that affects people that drive here, and I'm pretty sure it's still on the books. I think unless it's stated at a sign, you can't make a right on red. And I only knew this because I grew up in New Jersey, so I would drive to New York a lot. That was some of my first experiences in the city as an adult. I'd be driving to the city, and I'm like, no right on red, no right on red. So yeah, that's
Yes,
probably one of the more unique ones.
that is a unique one. Not New York City, but one another American city I did a video on that had an interesting law is Boston. And I guess in Boston they had so much problems with people getting drunk after work that Boston has a law against happy hour prices. In Boston, restaurants or bars cannot offer discounts on alcohol based on time of day.
I'm happy that they have enough customers to do that. That sounds great.
For sure. Jay Pike wants to know what's the best Italian bakery?
You know, I just covered a video on the East Village, and I was just thinking of this place recently. It's like you guys are reading my mind. It's called Venero's, and it's in the East Village. Check out my channel, Jay Pike, if you're interested. The video was called "These Businesses Are Struggling to Survive During COVID-19." So Venero's is one of the oldest. Actually, I believe it is the oldest Italian bakery in New York City, and they stayed open through most of COVID. They had to close a little bit. They are so old. They were in business during the Spanish flu, and I saw the comments on that video, and there were a lot of old timers, and they said like, my parents used to bring me pastries from Venero's. It's a
Oh
very
wow.
sentimental, classical place. So yeah, I would say Venero's.
Yeah. Speaking of food, John, what's your favorite restaurant in New York City?
Oof. I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to answer that question. We could do a whole video on this topic. Uh, I mean, it depends on what type of food we're talking about. Are we talking about like if I had to just go to one sit down restaurant ever, or just types of food, or it's just a difficult question.
Yeah, yeah, maybe, if so, I'll say, for example, like when people come to California, if they're not from the US, I say, like, hey, if there's one thing you have to eat, it's like In-N-Out Burger. Like, you have to go to In-N-Out Burger.
Okay.
It's a cheap eat, but there's like, what's one thing or one place you think people need to go when they visit New York City?
I'll say Bleecker Street Pizza just because it's my favorite pizza place. Not because I have my picture on the wall, because I really like that place. And I think like almost every single viewer of mine who went there after I suggested it really loved it.
Yeah.
Just because I've crowdsourced that one a lot, and I would put a close second or maybe a tie. I would say Sarge's Deli, which is in Midtown East. They have a phenomenal pastrami sandwich over there. Everyone's always saying go to Katz's. I like Katz's, but it's very touristy. If you want to, I think Anthony Bourdain said it. If there's one thing that New York City does better than anywhere else in the world, like undeniably, it is the deli sandwich. So it'd be between Bleecker Street Pizza and Sarge's Deli, one of those two. Because with pizza, you could say, okay, but the Italians invented it. You can get better pizza in Italy if you want Neapolitan style. So I would say, yeah, one of those two.
Cool. Since you already took pizza, I'll give one, which is I think one of the quintessential New York experiences is eating at the Halal Guys, the food cart, and
Hmm.
just because like there's so much cart food in New York City, and a lot of it's just hot dogs. But like the Halal Guys actually has really good food, and while they have like franchised all over the U.S., I still think the original cart is tastier than most of the restaurants. Uh, JJ asks this question that maybe you'll know what it means because I don't. He asks you if you miss Tal and Jacob. I do miss those vlogs.
So he's referring to two other YouTubers, Traveling Clat. These are
Oh,
both friends of
sure.
mine.
Yeah, yeah. I know Traveling Clap. Yeah.
Mhm. And Jacob Carlson. I think what Jay is referring to, and I know who Jay is. Hope you're doing well. I think he's referring to a period where Tal was living in New York, and we were doing collab videos, like once every week or two. So us three were doing a lot of videos together. I miss Tal. He's doing well in the Philippines. Jacob still lives in Brooklyn. He's not really making as many videos, although we did talk about maybe doing a video together soon. And I do see Jacob from time to time, so I don't miss him as much as I miss Tal, who I haven't seen in over a year. But yeah, I miss doing those videos for sure.
Kathy asks if you ever went to the Australian restaurant when it was open. For background, Kathy's from Australia.
I think there was a couple of Australian restaurants in New York. There was one Australian restaurant in Midtown. This might be the one she's referring to. I don't remember the name, but we were friends with an Australian girl, and like 7, 8 years ago, I did go to this place and I drank at the bar, and the bartender was Australian. So that was my Australian New York City experience. Yes, I did.
Good, good. There were also some comments in the chat about Outback Steakhouse being the quintessential Australian experience. Ha ha ha. Very good. Laura wants to know, where do locals go for day trips or weekend getaways?
Well, I would say it depends on the time of year. Now we're past Labor Day. If it was, between Memorial Day and Labor Day, I'd say a lot of the locals escape to the Hamptons, at least the ones with the means to do so. If you're me and you grew up in Jersey and you have friends who have a shore house, I love going to the Jersey Shore. That's a big summer escape. During the other times of year, people go to the Catskills. They'll rent a car, go to upstate New York. You could do, pumpkin picking, apple picking. You can get a little bed and breakfast action up there. Some nice towns along the Hudson River. I'm actually potentially planning a trip. We haven't really looked anything up yet, but I would love to get away when the leaves changed last year. Adriana and I, we got an Airbnb at the foothills. I forgot the mountain range. It's the Berkshires. It was on the border of New York State and Massachusetts. It was like a 2-hour drive, and we were in the country. So I would just say going either upstate or maybe the Poconos in Pennsylvania would be some common escapes for the non-summer months.
Yeah. What about, just curious, what about like Philadelphia or DC, any place you can take the Amtrak to? Do people really do that on a regular basis or not really? Or they're big cities, and so people don't want to leave the city to go to another city?
I think Philadelphia is very doable because it's less than 2 hours from Penn Station on the Acela. Or Amtrak Acela. So I did that last Labor Day around there. We went to Philly. We actually stayed a couple nights, made a video. But I know a couple that lives in Brooklyn. I think they just drove down to Philly for the day, had some cheesesteaks, drove back. Yeah, you could do it in one day.
Yeah, it's worth it for the cheesesteaks. Traveling the World wants to know if you like Brighton Beach and Arthur Avenue, because they know you made some videos there.
I do. I like both of them for different reasons. I like Brighton Beach because my family background is Eastern European Jewish. My parents are from Ukraine, so they immigrated to Brooklyn originally, and there's a lot of Russian Soviet influence there. So I like walking around. They have a really cool like a CD shop with funky gifts. You can get those little Russian Matryoshka dolls, for example. They also have places you can eat like borscht. There was a really cool restaurant in Brighton Beach. I filmed that once. It's called Cafe Your Mother-in-Law. And this is one of the weirdest.
Yeah.
This is one of the quirkiest mixes of food I've ever seen. It was a mixture of Korean, Uzbek, and Russian food. It's like this interesting fusion.
Interesting.
Yeah, because the people there, I believe, were Koreans who moved to Uzbekistan. There was some kind of a Korean population, and it was also the former Soviet Union. So they had all three of those blends. It was really good. And I've yet to be back there in like 5 years. I want to go back.
Right.
So I like Brighton Beach is cool. Also, it has a little boardwalk. When it's not COVID-19, you can see Russians performing. You can go to shows. And Arthur Avenue is amazing. I haven't been there in a long time, probably in about a year. I want to go back. I wanted to take my dad there. I think their Italian food is phenomenal. I love that area. It feels so like authentic old school Bronx. So yeah, I'm a fan of both.
What about season? Sports on the Side wants to know, what's the best time of year to go to New York City for the weather?
I was walking outside on my way back from my brother's apartment in short sleeves. I was the only person in short sleeves. Everyone was wearing a light jacket. It's actually getting really nice right now. Normally, I like to tell people the two best months historically to visit New York would be October or May. You really can't go wrong coming to New York, let's say the second week of October. if you for me, walking around a lot is not something I want to do if it's really hot or really cold. So I like milder temperatures. And generally speaking, in May also it's going to be warming up just enough where it's really pleasant to be outside any hour of the day. So yeah, I'd say October or May are your best bets.
Yeah, I also like that. Also, just shoulder season in New York City, right? The tourist throngs come in, June, July, August, and so
Oh yeah.
May and October you avoid the throngs. Um, so speaking of food, what about Peter Luger? Peter Luger is this famous steakhouse in New York City, and people often say it's the best steak in New York. What do you think, Peter Luger, best steak in New York?
So here's my Peter Luger story. I have actually not had their steak. I did a video about Williamsburg, Brooklyn, maybe 6 months ago, right before COVID. And I have a friend who's a real food insider, and he told me, go to Peter Luger, go to the bar, and order their burger. The way that they make their burger, it's like $15, a little expensive, but
Yeah.
oh my God, it was one of the best burgers I've ever had in the United States. I haven't had a steak yet, but I'll recommend Peter Luger for their burger any day. My favorite steakhouse is what is it? It's Del Frisco's Double. I think it's called Del Frisco's Double Eagle Steakhouse. It's in Midtown. That's the one I've went to the most times for like a guys' night out and actually enjoyed. Like I've been to a couple of other steakhouses in New York, and it's always been kind of hit or miss. I don't think but I'm just trying to remember. No, we never could get a reservation when we wanted for Peter Luger's at a
Yeah.
time I wanted at night. So I've only done the burger. So honestly, I need to investigate this. Right now, I'm going to say that Del Frisco's is my favorite in Midtown.
Good deal. Peter Luger was probably one of the videos that I made that got the most views at the beginning of my time as a YouTuber. And it was also the most controversial because I ate the steak there and I said, well, is it a good steak? I mean, it's pretty good if you've got a wad of cash burning a hole in your pocket because it's really expensive and it's cash only, or at least it was cash only at the time. Which,
Yeah, I think they may have changed that policy recently. They had something else. Maybe it was Venmo. There was something else. There was some other way you could
oh,
pay.
yeah, all right. Yeah, we take Bitcoin.
That would be
So,
interesting.
yeah, it would be. So also speaking of restaurants, are there any like neighborhoods that you think are just like great neighborhoods to like wander around to find restaurants if you're just kind of like, what's a good place to go to eat neighborhood wise?
Oh, so many, so many. I mean, I could tell you my own area of Greenwich Village, if we're going to talk about Manhattan for a little bit. I mean, Greenwich Village has some of the highest concentration of pizza places on planet Earth. Like, it is insane how many famous and good pizza places are within a 5 minute walk of my apartment. I'm going to miss that a lot when I leave this neighborhood, which, I think I am leaving in the next few months to go to Brooklyn. Not official yet, but a lot of my viewers know this. I'm going to miss the pizza scene here. I would also say Chinatown. You could walk in Chinatown and just find so many phenomenal cheap places to eat. Also, my favorite food neighborhood in New York, I was just there yesterday, was Jackson Heights, Queens. Like the amount of ethnic food and street food you could find there. Like they have one area where it's mostly Indian food. Across the street, it's Nepalese momos. Walk down the street, Thai food. A little bit further down, Little Manila. Walk 3 blocks this way, Mexican, Colombian. So that area probably has the highest concentration of just like amazing ethnic foods. So it's like whatever you're looking for food wise in New York, I mean, those three neighborhoods, you really couldn't go wrong.
Yeah, right on. So there are 205 people on the live stream right now. If you're enjoying
Wow.
the live stream, give it a thumbs up. Let John know that you liked it. Give him the thumbs up for coming on here. Right on. Um, what's your favorite off the beaten path spot in New York City?
So I actually just visited a spot that is only open during the warm weather months. And, I like to tell people where to go, although I maybe would feel bad if it got super crowded. But Governor's Island in the summer, I was just there last week. Absolutely phenomenal. You go there, you rent a bike, and you see Manhattan in the distance. Manhattan, you could basically reach out and touch it. It's like a few football fields away, and it's a $3 ferry ride. And it used to be a Coast Guard naval base. So they have a lot of old buildings there. It kind of feels like you're walking through this old college campus, and just over the hill, you'll see the skyscrapers, and then you'll turn left, you'll turn right. There's nobody around you. It's like this amazing, almost deserted place if you go during the week, and they have food trucks there, and they have some restaurants you could eat right at the water. It's just so relaxing, and this perfect contrast to the craziness of Manhattan, right across the water.
Yeah. I've never been to Governor's Island, so I'll have to check that out. One of the ones, another island that I think is kind of neat is Roosevelt Island, and I think it's really neat to take the tramway there. I'm sort of like a, public transportation geek, and like to think that New York City has a public aerial tramway. Most people don't really, it's like New York City is the land of subways, but a public aerial tramway? Yeah, public aerial tramway. And I think Roosevelt Island, I think, is one of the best places to get a view of New York City, like if you want to take a picture. Are there other spots that you think, if people want to get that New York City skyline, like where should they go to get one of those classic pictures?
I mean, the classic spot is to go to Dumbo. It's basically what I would tell people to do is walk the Brooklyn Bridge, go down, and I mean, the views are incredible. But I actually think a better idea and less known would be to take one of the New York City ferries. I think it's the cost of a subway swipe, and you get the app on your phone. I believe it's Pier 11. Don't quote me, but anyone could look this up. Just ferry from Manhattan to Dumbo.
Yeah.
It takes less than 5 minutes, and that ride is absolutely incredible because you're on the water and you can take these great shots of both the Brooklyn Bridge and of Manhattan while it's moving. So if you like doing videos, it's a good shot. So I would say either walk the Brooklyn Bridge or maybe here's what I would do. I got it. Perfect. Take the ferry from Manhattan to Dumbo, take your pictures, then go walk the Brooklyn Bridge back to Manhattan. That's what I would do.
Right on. That's a good suggestion. That sounds like a good walk too. So I love like
Very
walking
good
the
walk,
Brooklyn
yeah.
Bridge. It's totally one of those classic things you have to do. Well, now everybody, it's that special time you've been waiting for.
Yes, it's the time you've been waiting for. It's time for the giveaway.
Okay, so for those of you who watch the live streams regularly, you'll know I always give away a Yellow Productions crew shirt, and today I got to answer something that John said. So John shared with us his favorite pizza place, and his favorite slice of pizza from there. So if you're the first person to put in the chat John's favorite pizza place and his favorite pizza slice, then you will win a Yellow Productions crew shirt shipped anywhere in the world to you. And so while people are putting that in the chat, and John's drinking something, and I'm glad to see, John, that you're drinking, because I drink a lot when I do an hour live stream, and there are some people who are like, Chris, I cannot stand it. You are drinking all the time. And I'm like, well, newscasters don't drink, or maybe as a sportscaster, because they have like commercial breaks, right? As opposed to like just being on for an hour.
Well, this is interesting for me because I came up as a sports broadcaster, and my specialty was play-by-play announcing. So I would be sitting talking for hours straight, and I always knew the importance of drinking water during a broadcast. But I also had a reputation of drinking too much water, and it would be very annoying because, let's say in the seventh inning of a baseball game, I've got 2 minutes of commercials. I have to run to the bathroom in the press box and hope that the bathroom is near where I'm sitting. There were some stadiums where I had to hold it. So, I appreciate water, but sometimes I drink too much of it.
Right on. Whoop.
And now we have a winner chicken dinner.
Okay, so the winner today is going to be an interesting one, as I was looking in the chat, because some people put in Bleecker Street Pizza, some people just said the type of the pizza, but Traveling the World in one message said Bleecker Street Pizza, and then in the next message said Nona Maria. And then Ken Kramer right after that put the two together, but Ken Kramer, Traveling the World, beat you. John, do you confirm that's your favorite pizza and slice?
Confirmed.
Right on, traveling the world. Congratulations. You win a Yellow Productions crew shirt. You can send me an email to chris@yellow.net with 2 W's or message me on Facebook. You'll find my links in the description. John, thank you so very much for joining us today for this live stream. It was a lot of fun. If people want to check out your content, how can they find you?
First, I just want to say thank you for having me. And I just looked at the clock and I'm like, it's been an hour already?
It has been. It has been.
An hour.
Right.
Yes, if you want to find me, I mean, you just had it written below, but it's Here Be Barr, and you can find me I'm on YouTube is my biggest platform, as well as Instagram, Twitter. I'm making TikToks now. I'm getting crazy. I'm everywhere. Yeah, so Here Be Barr anywhere, you will find me.
Good deal. And for the truly lazy, you'll find a link to his channel in the description of this video. Just expand that or whatever thing you're looking at, and you'll get right there. Well, John, you're right. This was only an hour, but I hope we do it again because it was a lot of fun. And so, John, thank you very much. As usual, I won't say goodbye because I'm going to see you all in the next video. Next live stream will be next week, Tuesday, at 4:45 LA time. But as usual, you can join me for travel video on Fridays. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Chris. Take care.